Hey everybody, it's Jordan here with Major Hi-Fi, back again with another review, and today we've got the Dan Clark Audio Noire X. It's a brand new headphone from Dan Clark Audio, and I'm really excited to talk about it. But first, if you like what you see on this channel, definitely like and subscribe down below. It'll help us make more videos like it in the future, and it'll help you get them right into your feed. So Dan Clark Audio has really gained a lot of notoriety in recent years for pushing boundaries technologically as well as on price point. And one of their models that really represents this is the Aeon line. And so we've got an update. Dan Clark Audio is considering this an update to the Aeon 2 Noire, though it's dropping Aeon from the full title of the headphone. It's just the Noire X. And it's got stuff from all the way at the top of the line of Dan Clark Audio, and it's coming all the way down to its entry-level Aeon series. So we'll break down everything about this headphone, how it sounds, how it's built, how it's like the Aeon series, and also how it's like some of their top-of-the-line headphones, all in this review. And I think what's really exciting about this headphone, though, is that it's staying true to the Aeon price bracket at $999. And as we're going to break down and you're going to see in this review, what they pack into a $999 headphone is pretty impressive. So let's just get into the review and we'll start with what's in the box. In the box, you get the Dan Clark Audio Noire X headphones, a 2-meter dumber cable with 3.5mm termination, as well as a 1/4-inch adapter, a hard shell case, a quick start guide, and a certificate of authenticity. So jumping into the build of this headphone, you'll see that it shares most of its design language with the typical Aeon line of headphones. You've got the nitinol headband back, you've got this teardrop ear-shaped cups, you've got that same sleek black look as the Noire 2, and it's just really a classic looking Dan Clark headphone. But there are some significant changes, and we're going to get into that now. And the first one that I want to talk about is the new self-tensioning headband. So the self-tensioning headband's job is really to keep this fitting perfectly while you're wearing it, so you don't have to do a lot of adjusting while you're wearing the headphone. Previous generations of the Aeon have had a somewhat more complicated adjustment process where you'd have to use screws and change the tension yourself. This is really significantly upgrading the experience by just doing it all on its own. It's really an improvement. And, you know, the nitinol kind of folding headband type of design was already such a boundary pusher for Dan Clark, and so to keep pushing forward on that is really nice to see. And then moving on, the ear cups now use Gorilla Glass 3, which just makes it more durable to scratch resistance or any sort of blemishing that might come to your headphone. Given that it's a glossy black finish, you really want that extra protection because you just never know what could show up on a glossy finish. The one thing I'll say is they are fingerprint magnets still. So, you know, the Gorilla Glass 3 protects it from scratches and dings and different sorts of damage, but you're still going to want to microfiber cloth it down. And then one final upgrade to build quality is the ear cup design, which is now synthetic Alcantara suede. And this will just make for a cooler listen, prevent moisture buildup and all that stuff that can make listening uncomfortable. And again, I really want to point out how Dan Clark Audio is trying to double down on making it a more comfortable listening experience. Comfort is a really important part of listening to headphones. If you want to take the headphones off the whole time, you're not going to enjoy listening to music. So to see Dan Clark Audio continuing to push for more comfortable headphones is really nice. And on that note, the ear cups also are now working to prevent foam buildup, which in previous DCA headphones, their ear cups sometimes had the foam moving around. So in some places it's a little chunkier, and then in some places on the ear cup it's a little bit less chunky, and to use scientific terms. And what that would do was create an uneven and uncomfortable listening experience, as well as prevent you from getting a good seal. So Dan Clark Audio, once again, pushing forward, trying to make a more perfect headphone in every way possible. All right, so jumping into the design of the headphone, Dan Clark Audio is using a new redesigned 62 by 34 millimeter planar magnetic driver. Now, its SPL comes in at about 94 dB, so it's not the hardest headphone to drive, but it is gonna require some power to really get to the proper quality that you want from it. So I'd recommend a DAC amp system, definitely, especially if you're using it unbalanced, to make sure you're getting that proper signal and that proper amplification. And then the big feature upgrade on this headphone is that it has DCA's AMTS acoustic metamaterial tuning system, which is coming down from their top of the line headphones like the Expanse, Stealth, E3, Corinna. All of those top of the line headphones are using it, and now at $999, the Noire X has it. And so when I say that DCA is pushing boundaries with their $999 price point with the features they're packing into it, the AMTS is exactly what I'm talking about. It's a really high-end feature that you're getting in a mid-fi headphone, and I think that's super cool from Dan Clark Audio. Now, getting into what AMTS actually does, I'm going to read a quote from Dan Clark Audio that kind of elaborates on the goals of the AMTS system. AMTS uses advanced metamaterial design concepts to shape system frequency response while simultaneously eliminating high-frequency standing waves, which are responsible for the synthetic-sounding high frequencies found in all too many headphones. By eliminating these standing waves, Noire X with AMTS delivers remarkably balanced, nuanced, and airy treble free of the fatiguing artifacts that diminish your listening experience. So now that we're past all of these technical things, and they're really important, not to gloss over it in any way, but let's talk about how the headphones actually sound given these technical advancements. Now, getting into the sound impressions, we're going to start at the bass as we usually do. So the Noire X goes for a Harman target type of response, and so that's going to mean a little bit of elevation in the bass, attention and articulation in the treble, and a relaxed but linear mid-range. And in the bass response, you definitely feel this target being implemented. So you get a really bouncy and really assertive bass response that I'm not sure I've heard in Aeon headphones before. It's really aggressive. I shouldn't say aggressive. It's more assertive. It's an assertive bass response that lets you know it's there. It's bubbly, it's fun, and it's engaging in a way that I haven't heard from Aeon headphones. And I was really happy to hear this. I listened to Kendrick Lamar's new album, GNX, on this headphone, and I was really impressed by the bass response and how fun it sounded, but also how accurate it sounded. I'd say that even with its more aggressive approach, it's still able to stay controlled, and that's really impressive. It really toes a line in the bass response. I'd say the bass response is probably my favorite part of this headphone, mostly just because I was really pleasantly surprised by how well it toes that line between assertiveness and control. It's just a very mature sounding bass response. And speaking of maturity in the response, let's go to the mid-range, which I think, again, just shows a maturity of the Aeon series and what it's really grown into with the Noire X. So like I said, given that it's the Harman target, there is maybe a little bit more relaxation to the mids relative to the bass response, but I found it really clear and really present anyway. Vocals were just really beautiful to listen to. They were uncolored, they were clean, they were detailed, instrument separation was top notch. All of this added up to an invisible mid-range. And what I mean by that is on a lot of headphones, the vocals are pushed forward in a way that maybe feels artificial or unnatural. That's just not the case here. They managed to highlight the mid-range without it getting out of hand. Again, it's maturity, it's control, it's tact. It's just really nice to see in a headphone at this price point that it's being so well put together. Getting into the treble response, Dan Clark Audio really wants to highlight the improvements made here by the AMTS system. And I think that there are plenty of upgrades to the treble response, and that all comes in how natural it sounds and how refined it sounds. It's able to be splashy and really give extension to the treble without it being sibilant, without it being harsh, or without it being artificial. And that's the main goal of AMTS, and that's something that makes Dan Clark headphones really unique. A lot of closed-back headphones struggle with keeping this natural, realistic sound because there's so much going into balancing reflections and all that stuff that comes with a closed-back design. And Dan Clark Audio knows their way around closed-back headphones, and so this AMTS acoustic metamaterial tuning system really controls and refines that top end so it can still be cutting and really incisive without being grating or too cold sounding. I really liked what I heard from the treble response, and I think that there's a really coherent frequency response here. I do think that, like a lot of Dan Clark Audio headphones, there is a little bit of a leanness to the sound overall, and I think that comes from the Harman target. You don't get that mid-bass bloom, that colored, warm mid-range that you would get on some other headphones. But that's just not the character of this headphone, and so it doesn't make sense to judge it on that scale. It's trying to be clean and precise and detailed while also having an engaging and enjoyable listening experience. And I think Dan Clark Audio really toes that line pretty well. And then finally getting into the soundstage, this is where Dan Clark Audio makes its bread and butter on closed-back headphones. The original Aeon and Ether and other closed-back headphones are meant to really push the boundaries of what closed-back headphones could do, and soundstage is a key part of that. I would describe it as being a pretty wide and accurately imaged soundstage within the confines of that closed-back space. So it's not trying to artificially create the feeling of an open-back headphone. Instead, it's establishing its soundstage and just really superbly imaging sounds within it. Sound localization and separation and placement is just really well executed here. And I can't judge it against an open back headphone on that case. It's just a uniquely engineered closed back design. And I think if you're looking for a closed back headphone that's going to be accurate, that's going to be really engrossing, I think the Noire X is a good option. Overall, I think the soundstage on the Noire X is really, really nice, and they've done a good job at playing to the strengths of the headphone. So to wrap things up, at just under $1,000, this headphone is definitely something to check out. It's unique, it's got top-of-the-line features at budget prices, and I think it's a really nice mid-fi contender for somebody who wants to step up into what Dan Clark Audio is bringing into the table. Some of these more advanced features and just great detail, great refinement, great maturity in a headphone. That's what you're going to get from this Noire X. So that does it for today's video. Again, I'm Jordan with Major Hi-Fi, and if you liked what you saw, definitely like and subscribe down below. It'll help us make more videos just like them in the future, and it'll help you get them right into your feed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.